Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you to those joining us online. Welcome to Finance Budget Delegated Committee meeting of April the 22nd, 2025. Councillor Hall, you have volunteered to do the Malto country.
Yes. Wodonga Council acknowledges Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people as First Peoples of the country. We also acknowledge them as traditional owners and custodians across various lands. We pay our respect to their ancestors, elders, children and young people. We acknowledge the strength and resilience of all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples and recognise their continuous connections to lands, waters and communities across the country.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Agenda item 2 is apologies and requests to attend by electronic means. We've got Councillor Quilty who's requested attending by electronic means. Our governance rules request that we have a vote on that. So all those in favour of having Councillor Quilty attend by electronic means, those in favour? It's Councillor Hall, Councillor Cowan, Councillor Aldridge, Councillor Knight and Councillor Goble. It's unanimous. Thank you. Welcome, Councillor Quilty. We have one apology. We have one apology, which is Councillor Seymour. If that could be noted, please. Agenda item 3 is the Good Governance Pledge, and Councillor Aldridge has volunteered to read that.
Wodonga councillors have committed to undertake the duties of the Office of Councillor in the best interests of the municipal community, abide by the Model Councillor Code of Conduct and uphold the standards of conduct set out in the Model Councillor Code of Conduct, faithfully and impartially carry out and exercise the functions, powers, authorities and discretions vested in the Office of Councillor under the Local Government Act 2020 and any other act to the best of their skill and judgment.
Thank you, Councillor Aldridge. Agenda item 4 is the declaration by councillors of any conflicts of interest. Are there any conflicts of interest? Councillor Cowan, did you have an update there in relation to? No? Okay. Agenda item 5 is the confirmation of minutes from the previous meeting. Recommendations before us. The mover. Councillor Knight, seconder. Councillor Aldridge. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you. Which now leads us to agenda item 6.1. The Community Funding Request 2025-2026 budget. There is a recommendation before us. I also sense that there's probably an appetite for suspending standing orders, but before doing so, I do need a mover of a motion.
Mr. Mayor.
Sorry, thank you, Councillor Cordy. I just noted you on screen, sorry. You'd like to move?
I would like to move a motion not quite as per recommendation, and I think that motion will be a good start to our debate.
Thank you. Thank you. Would you like to read that motion, Councillor Quilty? And then I'll request it.
Okay, so my motion, I'm sorry, I haven't it written out perfectly because it's the result of our very short briefing
Yes.
This morning in my case. So my attempt at the motion is that the Finance and Budget Delegated Committee adopts for inclusion in the proposed draft budget 25-26 the recommendations of the assessment panel for awarding community funding grants with the as listed in the original recommendation and with the following exemptions: that Wodonga Men's Shed grant is reduced to 20,000, that Flying Fruit Fly Circus grant comes out of is not awarded as a community grant and comes out of the events budget, that Mari Arts grant is reduced to 15,000, that Hot House Theatre grant is reduced to 40,000, and that Council does not enter an agreement with Murray Arts and Hot House Theatre for 3 years and assesses their request on an annual request for funding on an annual basis, commensurate with the budget process. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Conti. I've noticed the CEO typing that up, so hopefully we've managed to capture that. Could I have a seconder for that? Councillor Knight to second. I'm going to move to you, Councillor Conti, to speak to the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And firstly, I would like to apologize for coming up with this alternative motion on the go. As I said, it is due to our very short time of receiving this agenda just before Easter and our reduced opportunity to ask questions. My motion is firstly to reduce some amounts of grants. As you probably remember, even if you are not a returning councillor, the way we award community grants changed a couple of years later with the previous council to make it more aligned with the budget in order for us to see what the funds what the rate-based funds we have at our disposal, how our community grants will affect our community at large, to make sure that we do not prioritize the interests of small groups over interest of the whole community at large. And I think now is the perfect opportunity to do so and to adjust the grants that the amounts of grants that we have proposed. I would like to note that out of the whole list of grants that are in the report, even the ones that weren't awarded, there is hardly any that's not worthy. So really, my argument is not that some causes are more worthy of support than others. It is my grounds for putting forward this motion is to make sure that community at large benefits as much as possible from the limited funds that we have to offer our community organizations, and that we do not sacrifice our other services, maintenance programs, capital works, when we give out the grants. I also have suggested not to enter the 3-year memoranda of understanding with certain organizations, and this is not due to my lack of interest, of which there is none. I am a huge lover and supporter of arts and culture in my personal life and at my personal expense. However, I believe that entering this 3-year memorandum of understanding commits us as council to a very large sum of money, and it is not exactly a responsible decision from the point of view of the community at large. I recognize the argument and I appreciate the argument that it takes away the confidence from the organizations that they will have a certain sum of money coming from the council. But to me, it is more important to give as much confidence and as much financial freedom to all families living in our municipality, and to make sure that they have funds at their disposal as much as we possibly can as this budget project, to have more funds at their disposal to spend as they choose, not as we choose on their behalf, while at the same time supporting our community organizations, but at a slightly reduced rate that we can afford. I think in the times of financial instability in the whole world and for our community, it is important to make financially sensible and responsible decisions that will benefit as large section of the community as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Quilty. Councillor Knight is the seconder. Would you like to speak to the motion?
No, I'll leave it.
Thank you very much. I did flag that I sense there might be an interest in suspending standing orders. Is that the case or not? Would you like, sorry?
Mr Mayor, I'd like to foreshadow if this motion doesn't get adopted an alternative motion to the current motion being considered.
Sorry?
Yes, it would be to adopt the motion as it's recommended to us by the officers, and I'd like to thank them for their work in reviewing these wonderful applicants' projects. And but I would like to add a small amendment to the recommendation that would be to undertake a review of the community funding requests, the process, guidelines and the policy before the next round of funding is released.
So do you mind reading that again?
Yes.
Sorry.
To review the community funding request program,
Yeah.
the process, the guidelines and the policy before the next round of funding is released to the community.
Right. Thank you. And the seconder for that?
Oh,
Sorry.
I'll second.
Thank you, Councillor Aldridge.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor.
Yes. Yes, Councillor Quilty.
What has just happened? Sorry, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Has Councillor Cowan foreshadowed the motion, or have we voted on amending my motion, or what? I'm sorry, I just lost the track of proceedings a little.
I'm just seeking clarity, Councillor Quilty.
So there's a foreshadow we can sit in the background, but an amendment is functional on the books. So I'll just clarify with Councillor Cowan, do you want this on the books? Because if it's an amendment, Council will go about voting on the amendment, and if that gets up, then the amendment becomes the motion. Whereas if it's a foreshadow, there's no process matters about it. Council just considers the matter that Councillor Quilty has moved and has been seconded. And if that gets up, that happens. If it doesn't get up, then someone can move another motion. So two separate processes. The difference is if yours is foreshadowed, not official, sits in the background. If it's actually an amendment, it is a formal process under the governance rules.
Thank you. I'll make it. Yes, it is an amendment to the recommendation that is on the agenda paper.
Right. And we've got a seconder, Councillor Aldridge, to that. Did you want to speak to that at all?
Shouldn't I be dealing with the first one?
Yes. To go through.
Not as an amendment.
Councillors, as a process here, so now that we know that's amendment, so the amendment is what sits on the books first, and council will talk through the amendment, and then you will vote on the amendment, and then if the vote is positive, the amendment then becomes the motion, and you vote on the motion, and if it is lost, we go back to Councillor Quilty's. So the amendment takes preference over the original motion. Till you decide what happens with the amendment, you can't go back to the original motion. So I know this is a little bit confusing. This is the first time we've had to deal with this. So
So motion's got nothing to
step
do
through again if I can.
with the amendments, but nothing to
So-
do with the original motion.
So we have a motion on the books, moved and seconded. And then post that, we have an amendment on the books, moved and seconded. We deal with the amendment first. And then if we have a positive vote, then we go to a vote on the amendment as the motion. If we have a negative vote on the amendment, it goes down and we go back to the motion, the original motion, which was Councillor Quilty.
So I would, sorry, just for my brain, but wouldn't that normally be that the amendment would be to Councillor Quilty's motion, not to a motion that hasn't occurred? So the recommendation is just a recommendation?
So I'm telling you what is the governance rules. So you've got a motion.
Yep.
And we've got an amendment. The amendment gets dealt with first. It overrides the original
But
motion.
it's not an amendment to this motion though, is it? It's an amendment to something that hasn't been motioned. It's the recommendation.
It's an amendment, as in what the governance rules talks about an amendment.
Okay, so I'm confused.
Yes.
Are you finished with your question, Councillor Knight?
Yep.
Councillor Quilty, you got a question?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. May I seek further clarification? The original motion is my motion and
Yes.
Councillor Cowan's amendment is to my motion. And Councillor Cowan's amendment is the motion that I read out plus the bit that she read out. Is that correct?
No, my amendment was to accept the recommendation as noted in the agenda paper.
Yeah, I have questions.
Sorry, so that
Yeah.
will be my error there. So if it's not amending councillor Quilty's motion, that it would be a new motion on the book and hence you're foreshadowing a
That's
new
right.
motion.
Which is
Sorry.
what Councillor Cowan originally did.
Yes, sorry, my mistaken understanding of that. Yes.
Thank
So
you.
you're moving a foreshadow,
Foreshadowing.
An alternate motion.
which is the recommendation plus the additional words.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what we then have, just to be clear, is a motion that's been moved by Councillor Quilty, seconded by Councillor Knight. And I did put to the group whether there was an appetite for suspending standing orders, but I'm not seeing that anyone's interested in moving that. Who would like to speak, given that Councillor Quilty's spoken to the motion? Councillor Hall?
Yes. Okay, I do agree with Councillor Quilty. We do need to address the ever-increasing rise in costs to the council, ratepayers and find efficiencies where we can. We have an extremely tight budget this year, and we are struggling with finding these efficiencies. In the 2023-24, we changed the process and for how we assess community grants. Reasoning was to assess the grants before the annual budget was adopted, looking at our financial position at the same time and on what we could afford. The MOUs were left in because they were still current at that time, and it was with my understanding that the MOUs were, when they expired, were due to come up and be reassessed and discussed with councillors on whether we continued with them or whether we had changed the agreement with them, but they were due to be reassessed. In this in this report, it has a request for the renewals for the MOUs for the Hothouse Theatre and the Murray Arts. These are not-for-profit organisations, and while I understand they provide arts and cultural experiences to the community of Albury Wodonga, I believe they should. We should be having a look at this space going forward. Wodonga Council provides funding for many community facilities and organisations and groups. We have the Cube, Hyphen, Bone Hyphen Library, Historical Society. We have an events that invests in community culture, and we have a budget for community culture. So providing for all these events and facilities and organisations is a significant amount of money annually. And, you know, I did some quick costings and it's getting, in my belief, well above what we spend in sports and rec. And I wonder where the patronage fits into that spend proportionally, supporting the, you know, the cost differences probably needs to be had a look at too. So every application is a great application, and it's really difficult, puts councillors into a very difficult position. But I do believe that what Councillor Quilty's put forward is fair to the community and fair to the organisations. Albury Council, they fund Hothouse Theatre, and our suggested funding put forward by Councillor Quilty is of a similar amount. The Murray Arts gets funding from Albury, Indigo, Tower and Wodonga, and I think the 15,000 is really quite a proportionate amount, considering the population of Wodonga. I think it sits into that proportionally. We have a lease agreement, which is very generous for the Hothouse. And I think if it was to go out on the market and be significantly more. So I think we do look after our arts and culture groups, and I'll support Councillor Quilty's motion going forward.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Any other councillors? Councillor Aldridge.
Thank you to Councillor Quilty for putting forward the motion, just foreshadowing that I won't be supporting the motion tonight. I'd perhaps like to offer a different perspective on the points that have been raised. And while I do agree that it's important to exercise fiscal responsibility, we also have a duty to invest in initiatives that support our community. And grants to organisations, for example, like the Men's Shed, Murray Arts and Hot House, are essential to community wellbeing and to our regional identity. And these programs often deliver a high return on, in the scheme of things, a reasonably modest investment. In particular, the Men's Shed's providing significant mental health and social benefits, and the contribution that Councillor Quilty suggested may severely limit their ability to deliver on their project at all. Similarly, Murray Arts and Hot House are vital community partners that contribute to youth development, education, tourism and job creation for Wodonga. And by securing a strategic partnership with them, we not only provide these organisations with a degree of stability, but we also ensure that they can continue to deliver programs and attract grant opportunities outside of what council gives them. And I mean, forcing them to rely on annual grant applications introduces unpredictability and undermines their ability to plan and attract long-term funding. And I support a multi-year MOU to these organisations to give them clarity, stability and accountability, all of which, as Councillor Quilty said, are important in these uncertain economic times. Strategic investment in arts and culture doesn't detract from financial responsibility. It complements it by enhancing social inclusion, economic development and pride in our city. And in difficult times, some people would argue that these are lifelines to our community.
Thank you, Councillor Aldridge. Any other councillors? Would you like to speak to the law, Councillor Cowan?
Oh, look, I think you know that I'm not supporting the motion as it's currently put. I think I respect the contribution that the community groups have made in making their application. I don't underestimate that. I know the time and effort that goes into those applications and and how it draws upon their limited resources to make them. And I'm also very grateful to the staff for their comprehensive analysis of the applications that have come forward and recommendations that they've made to us. And in essence, I think community groups that we can provide a little bit of funding to are the investment in the future of our community. They enhance our livability. They enhance our social cohesion. They promote opportunities for volunteering. And I don't think we can underestimate the value. I think volunteering contributes for every dollar, at least $4.50 back to the community that it's in. And the opportunity for civic engagement, I think is invaluable. So I'm strongly in support of the applications, and for those that were ineligible, I'm very supportive of them getting back to us in future years, and I look forward to continuing to enhance these community grants out to the communities.
Thank you, Councillor Cowan. Councillor Quilty, thank you very much for putting this forward. Like Councillor Aldridge and Councillor Cowan have said a lot, but I don't feel that I can support the motion. The Men's Shed is such an incredible organisation, which we've recognised through our Community Organisation of the Year award. I think they've won 2 awards. Represents a cohort.
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry, point of order. I'm really sorry to interrupt you, and I'm really interested in hearing your argument, but I believe the mover of the motion gets the opportunity to speak in closing before the chair. Please correct me if I'm wrong.
No, apparently not, Councillor Quilty. You do get an opportunity after I've spoken. It's my understanding. Can I
After
take
you
it?
have spoken. I'll be, yes, I'm very interested in both hearing out your argument and speaking in closing. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
No, thank you, Councillor Quilty. And I did consider that prior to speaking, but thank you. Yeah, the men's shed represent a cohort of our community that so often get overlooked and underrepresented in terms of investment. I think of all the other investments that council makes in other age cohorts, whether it's sports or other things, and I just, they do such a great job, and their funding is dependent on getting this amount of money. Likewise, Murray Arts, there's a formula there for which our regional councils contribute. Always contributing 47,000, us contributing only 15,000 wouldn't represent that population pro rata formula that's, I think, being applied. And likewise, in terms of these long-term MOUs, these organisations require certainty so they can forward plan. And I'd be very reluctant to take that certainty away from them. For those reasons, I would be unlikely to be supporting your motion, Councillor Quilty. Councillor Quilty, as the mover of the motion, you've got the right to a right of reply. Would you like to speak?
Yes, please. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, councillors, for providing your very measured and interesting argument. I do appreciate all the points that have been made. I would like to respond to several of them. First of all, Men's Shed was mentioned several times as a very important, valuable community organization doing a great job. And I could not but agree to that. Men's Shed is an asset to our community, and we do value their contribution. And besides, the project that they are asked to help fund is a very good idea, very useful, and will affect other assets and organizations in the area of where they're physically located. I agree with that, and I think that the small reduction to the amount they have requested, 20,000 as opposed to 27, is still a generous and fair amount. That's my view. As for the contribution of art and culture societies and organizations towards our economic development and job creation, I would love, as an accountant and an economist, to see some empirical evidence to that. That would be really interesting to me. I haven't seen that yet. I'm sure that some influence over that exists. And as I said, cultural life is very important to personal development and to community development, and I myself am a huge lover and supporter of all sorts of arts at my personal expense. I just feel that the reduced contributions that I have offered are still substantial support from council, and will help provide the benefits to the community while at slightly reduced amounts. As for certainty, I believe that providing certainty to each and every family in our municipality is paramount and above all, even if it's above very important community organizations. As I mentioned in one of our briefings or correspondence previously, last year when we were looking at the budget, we looked at several years going ahead, and the proposed increase to the rates was 2% for 25-26 year and the following years. So while of course council and community looked at the following financial year as the budget year, people also look at the years going ahead and possibly plan ahead, especially those whose funds are really tight. Jumping from, and I'm aware that we are not debating budget, but these community grants are part of the budget. Jumping from 2 to 3% increase is a huge jump. And what we are attempting, honestly attempting this year, is not to jump that high. It is still a pretty high jump, 2.5%, but it's a jump. It's closer to 2%, and it will 0.5% is a lot more financial certainty to the community, to each and every member of our community, whether they appreciate art or not, or try to spend their money elsewhere, maybe giving their children slightly better education opportunities, or putting some extra food on the table, providing some more nutritious diet. It's every family's choice. And I feel that it's very responsible of us to continue to give to the community organizations, but commensurate with our current budget situation, and making sure that we provide a certainty for each and every family, regardless of what community services they use. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Quilty. If there are no other councillor comments or questions, I'd like to put it to a vote. The motion, and just to be clear, I'll read it out for those that are online that may not have heard it, that the FBDC adopts, for including in the draft budget, the recommendations of the assessment panel for awarding of grants as listed with the following exemptions: men's shed reduced to 20,000, and fruit fly circus is not funded through the community grant process, but is included in the events draft budget. And 3, Murray Arts be included for one-off 15,000. 4, hothouse be included for one-off 14,000. The council does not enter into grants for 3 years, and the council considers this matter in a future review. Councillor Courtney, that reflects what you said?
Yes.
Yeah. So I'd like to put, so all those in favour? Councillor Hall, Councillor Knight, Councillor Quilty. All those against? Councillor Cowan, Councillor Aldridge, Councillor Global, with the men's vote, and the casting vote. Sorry, Councillor Cooley, that's failed. We had a foreshadowed motion from Councillor Cowan. Councillor Cowan, would you like to speak?
Yes, I'd like to put the motion that the recommendation as listed, as written by the officers, be accepted, and that it be the addition to that be that there be undertaken a review of the community funding program, including the requests, process, guidelines, and grants policy before the next round of funding is released to the community.
Thank you. Did you capture that, Sarah? Thank you. We have a seconder, Councillor Aldridge. As the mover, Councillor Cowan, would you like to speak to that?
Well, thank you again. I'd just like to congratulate those applicants that have made requests for community funding. I understand the value of this to your groups. I know how hard you work for our community, and I know how important these community grants are. So it's one of the delightful parts of the role of the councillor to find the opportunity to make small grants into the community for the impact that it creates in the wider community. I am seeking a review of the community funding program into the future to potentially alleviate any of the opportunities or missed opportunities that may have been there during this current round, and hope that we can tidy that up. So that's once again, thank you to all the applicants, thank you to the staff for going through the process and evaluating these applications for us.
Thank you, Councillor Cowan. Councillor Aldridge, would you like to speak?
Just want to echo the sentiments of Councillor Cowan to thank the staff for their due diligence in going through and providing us with this list of very valuable organisations that we can assist with community grants and strategic partnerships.
Thank you, Councillor Aldridge. I'd like to open up to any other councillors to ask questions or make comment. Councillor Hall.
Yes, so for this year, the community grants, including the MOU, this is $178,024.99. And for the next 3 years, MOUs will be $186,000 for the two MOUs, $186,094.12. Now, when we've got a tight budget, it's great to be able to fund these organisations. But, you know, everyone's got a cost of living story, and cancer has cost of living issues too. I think we need to be mindful of spending within our means, like all budgets. It's very easy to just spend and it creeps up on you. And before you know, we're dealing with the sort of thing we dealt with in the prior budget where we had to deal with a 2.8 million black hole. I'm just trying to, I think just being fiscally responsible, these are fair amounts that have been proposed in the prior, we've put fair amounts in, and I'm thinking that, you know, we really do need to look at where we go with our spending. And I just believe this is just another one of, it's very easy to tick it off when it's not coming out of your pocket, but, you know, we have a responsibility to our ratepayers and to our community. And I know all of these organisations and groups provide great things to our community, but it's no good when we're broke. So, you know, and we've got to put that cost back onto our ratepayers. So I just think we just need to be mindful where we're going with our spending, and I don't want to end up where we were last year. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Any other councillors? Councillor Quilty.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will not be supporting Councillor Cowan's motion tonight. I believe that our current system is of assessing community grant requests is not perfect, but in essence works really well, with the main idea behind it to commensurate our givings to community organizations with our current budget situations. With the exception of tying us to 3-year MOUs, I'm happy with how it works at the moment. I think it's necessary to look at our spendings, big or small, every year, and to see not just what we value in our community, but how much we can actually physically give, and doing it the way we do it, with the exception of long-term MOUs, I think serves our community a really good purpose. So I'm happy to continue more or less with what we've got now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Quilty. Any other councillor comments? If not, I'll put it to a vote. All those in favour of motion put forward by Councillor Cowan, Councillor Aldridge, Councillor Goebel. All those against, Councillor Hall, Councillor Knight, Councillor Quilty, carried with the casting vote. Thank you very much, councillors. We're now on item 6.2, Parks and Gardens Service Review Scope. There is a recommendation before us. Would someone like to move that or an alternative? Councillor Knight.
Have a motion here that the Finance and Budget Delegated Committee endorse the scope for the Parks and Gardens Service Review, and specifically include investments into technological advances and providing efficiency advantages in the scope section.
Thank you very much, Councillor Knight. Could I have a seconder? Councillor Aldridge, thank you. Councillor Knight.
Look, I just think that's it's pretty straightforward. That, you know, there's a lot of advancements in technology at the moment, and if we can do things more efficiently, it's going to be better for our budget and for our parks and gardens.
Yeah. Right. Thank you very much, Councillor Knight. Councillor Aldridge, would you like to speak to that?
Just to echo the sentiments of Councillor Knight and say this is one way that we can look for cost saving efficiencies within this department, and that's a good thing.
Thank you, Councillor Aldrich. Any other councillors? Councillor Hall.
Yes, this is just part of a program that we set up in the last council to look at service reviews as part of our restructure, but also part of finding efficiencies within the organisation. So ideally, I think we do 2, depending on the size of the department, service department, we do 2 a year. If they're smaller ones, I think there's 4. Yep. And I think it's great. I think it was a great incentive. I think we'll know where we stand better with all of the once the reviews are done, and we will continue doing them until we've gone through all of the service departments and service catalogue that we've got with council. So I think it's a good thing, and it's not just about finding efficiencies. Also, it's about doing things better, or where we might have a gap somewhere that we might need to get something else into place that can assist in doing it better. So, yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Any other councillor comments? Councillor Courtney?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to take this opportunity to thank, first of all, the staff involved in this service review. It is important to continue to look for and find efficiencies while providing excellent services to the community. It is always difficult to do these reviews. A lot of resources goes into it. However, it is very important. So thank you. And again, my heartfelt thanks to anybody involved with the parks and gardens services that the council provides. I believe that our parks and gardens are our pride and the joy of many our community members. The opportunity to enjoy our beautiful parks and gardens are truly a great boost to the community well-being, and the opportunity to perhaps come down and distract after a stressful day at work with the ever-rising costs of living and ever-growing taxes and rates. It is a good way to relax, connect to nature, spend some quality time with children and pets, and I'm really grateful as a resident and as a councillor for having this opportunity of enjoyment, and for doing a review and identifying ways how we can continue to provide this service well, efficiently, and productively. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Courtney. Any other councillors? I'd like to echo Councillor Courtney's comments about the standard by which our outdoors team, the service levels of maintaining our parks and gardens is extraordinary. I think so many of our community acknowledge that, and visitors to our community. It's a source of a great sense of pride in our city. I am mindful that it's a very big line item. I think it's circa 8.5 million. Right? Yes, and but notwithstanding that, there's always opportunities for process improvement, to Councillor Hall's comment, and very supportive of Councillor Knight's motion, particularly in relation to investigating technological advances in providing efficiency advantages and service performance enhancement to this very, very important business unit. There are no other comments. Councillor Knight, would you like to, as the mover, any closing comments, write a reply? No. If not, if I could put it to a vote, all those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Leads us now to item 7, confidential business. CEO, there's none, which then leads us to the close of the meeting. So if I could declare the meeting closed at 6:44 p.m. Thank you very much to staff and those online and councillors. Thank you.